Hello. One thing that you have taught me, those of you who watch this channel, is that you are of all ages. It's really amazing. Where most YouTube channels have a specific age who watch them, I have people of all ages, and I find that really fascinating. I really wanted to make something aimed at Gen Z, so born from the late mid-90s to kind of the financial crash of 2008. In that there was this song that came out in the early 1970s called Imagine by John Lennon, who was the frontman of the Beatles. And it really encapsulates a lot of what's wrong with our world today, and a lot of why your generation, you've been robbed of your own culture, essentially. You've been robbed of an identity, of just normal families and neighborhoods where there's a stable demographic, or people who just get married and go to church and be normal. A lot of you have just been denied that entire experience. And this song and what it represents from that point in time, I want you to see that this really exemplifies why this has happened to you. I'm Benjamin. Let me know what your name is down in the comments. But first, I need to explain something before I go into that song and the lyrics, which I'm going to explain line by line, of why this is so sinister and genuinely evil when dressed as love and kindness and tolerance. But I need to explain something called the Tabula Rasa, which was coined by John Locke, a thinker, in 1689. And this guy's big thing was economy and natural rights, and he believed in this tabula rasa, the blank slate, essentially the white paper. He believed human beings are born into this world without any preconceptions, that your ancestry, your clan, your nation, your faith, all of that has no bearing upon any preconception and who you become, that you basically inherit nothing from your parents. You have this nature-nurture concept. There's an argument between them. This is basically nurture gone to the extreme, saying there's nothing of nature that influences you from before you were born, from before your birth. And this is the beginning of what would eventually create John Lennon's Imagine, in seeking to remove our roots, remove our nations, remove ethnicity, remove even religion from anything, and say that we're just floating units of GDP in the world and we're all the same. All nations are compatible and there's no difference. In fact, even pointing out difference makes you a horrible, sinful person. That's what this did. Let's look at John Lennon's Imagine, especially for Gen Z who don't know this song. Maybe you do, but you might not know the context. And I want to show you really how pernicious this is. So the lyrics goes this. I'm going to explain line by line. Imagine there's no heaven. So what do we aspire towards? It's very nihilistic already, because heaven, that concept, is what has enabled us, especially in Europe. Now, I'm not Christian. I follow Judaism. So I'm not negating Christianity here. I'm just saying we need a moral structural basis with a higher thing to aspire to that's not made of man. And that's where our art over the centuries comes from. You know, these rays of light, these angels, this divine aura, that's where the most beautiful art in the history of our civilization comes from, over and over and over. So I don't want to imagine a world without heaven. And then he goes on to say, it's easy if you try. Now, when someone's giving you drugs or wanting you to join a cult, you know, they're going to tell you it's easy. When someone's trying to bankrupt you, like you go to a bank and they're selling you a loan, oh, it's easy, just sign here. That's the kind of mood that he's saying. All you have to do is imagine. It's easy, right? Nothing worth doing is ever easy. If you have a wonderful marriage with a wonderful wife and children, It's going to be the most rewarding thing that you ever experience, but it's not going to be easy. Next, no hell below us. Now, different faiths can believe in hell in different ways, and it's not all fire and brimstone and evil. But that's not what he's saying here. He's actually saying a world where you can do anything without recompense, where you can be anything without judgment, where you don't have to worry about any moral framework. Just do whatever you want, be whoever you want, and there's nothing of any consequence. There's no order. There's no law. There's just, woo, do whatever you want, which is how innocent people suffer in every age of anarchy. That is what causes, well, do you know the Warring States period of China? And have you noticed how China breaks down into complete warring anarchy every couple centuries? Well, that's what happens when you don't have a higher thing to aspire to with a consequence in a spiritual sense. That's one weakness of Chinese civilization, among many, many strengths. But that's one strength that we in the West have. There are consequences to your soul for actions, and it keeps us in an orderly sense of law that protects innocent people from the crimes of anarchy. Next, above us only sky. So there's no stars. Again, as in the case of the no heaven, there's nothing to aspire to. There's nothing to hope. There's no motivation to create something better. There's no reason to lift yourself up. It's very flattening. It's very gray. It's very dull. Above us only sky. No symbolism, no metaphor, no ethereal. Just, and I want you to notice this throughout this, just material. This is an extremely materialist ideology of the Tabula Rasa, which believes that we're just blank slates. Imagine all the people. So there are, 8 billion people in the world? I don't think I can imagine all the people. In fact, I don't want to imagine all the people because the human species is proven. We grew up in a tribal structure in which we are programmed or evolved into being able to recognize 300 to 400 faces. And in the rest of the people we meet, we categorize them almost like glyphs into categories ranging from hostile to friend. Those become categories or tribal groups in our conscience. We are actually designed as humans to not be able to imagine all the people. This is distinctly anti-human. So imagine all the people, and then it says, living for today. Living for today. So have you noticed in the streets, of photos of our streets, since this time, the late 60s or early 70s, going forward, there are fewer and fewer children playing in our streets. That's what living for today does. You're not living for your descendants, and you're not living for your ancestors or passing on what they gave you. It's just about you, your selfishness, and today. The children to come have no bearing in how you view the world. And then it's like a sound. That's intentional. It's an ecstatic joy, a relief from all responsibility, duty, and order. A relief that you have no burden of children, burden of family, burden of obligation to anyone else but yourself. That's what living for today means, that you don't participate in laying the seeds and the foundations of the future generations. It's inherently selfish. And remember, this was a top hit for most of the 70s. It was played everywhere. So next stanza, imagine there's no countries. So for all of human history, we have defined ourselves by little microstates which emerged into empires like Akkad, that was the earliest one. You saw the same thing in China, and it spread into Greece, Egypt of course. But what I'm saying is, that's the natural state of man. And one of the reasons I like Judaism, and I'm not going to go into this too much, but it acknowledges nations. Alright? All the ideologies which have said no nations have ended up being imperialist. So, the Islamic Caliphate, the Soviet Union, these were anti-nationalist ideologies. The Assyrian Empire. The reason Assyria became the lingua franca is because they wanted to do away with minority languages and peoples. They said, for the sake of peace, let's just wipe out other peoples and let there only be Assyria. You see what I'm saying? So, if there are no countries, whose culture and whose national identity wins out? Of course, it's John Lennon's, it's the Anglo, liberal blank slate worldview, and all other cultures cease to exist. It's inherently imperialist and colonial to want there to be no nations, because which nation's cultural identity is going to be that one that we choose out of all of those nations in the world. It isn't hard to do, is the next line. It isn't hard to do. If it isn't hard to do, why has it never been done? And in fact, if it isn't hard to do, why has every attempt to do it led to the death of millions of people? Assyria, Genghis Khan, communism, Islamic Jihad. In each case, millions of people died, so it is pretty hard to do. Again, someone selling something is easy. It's probably a ploy. It's probably like selling you drugs or a cult. Next line, nothing to kill or die for. So get this, he's kind of twisting it around, saying, if you disbelieve with me, you're basically a murderer. You're evil. It's subtle, but that's what's going on. And nothing to kill for or die for. I don't want a world with nothing to kill or die for. Because if someone comes for my family, I want to kill you. If someone comes for my country, my language, my faith, I want a world where that's worth dying for, because the key is, if you have nothing worth killing or dying for, you have nothing worth living for. You know, you can't have daylight without night. You can't have love without hate. They actually create each other. So he's essentially denying us a world that's worth living and fighting for. He's essentially replacing all that's love and calling it hatred, saying it's sowing division to want something that is worth defending. Next, and no religion too. He's coupling religion with murder and killing. So the one thing in our society that many of us seek out as a defense from all the modernity, all the selfishness, we seek a place of refuge. He's turning that, flipping it on its head and saying symbolically, you are killing people. He's categorizing religion with nationalism and murder, which, again, nationalism's not bad. It's imperialism that's bad. But he's not able, to see the difference between imperialism and nationalism. The national thing is the state of human nature, the collections of our tribes together into something that we can recognize beyond the family. Imperialism is seeking to deny people the identification of those in your wider kinfolk group beyond your family by blending us all together without any sense of differentiation. Next, imagine all the people. Again, at what point in history have we even been able to understand all the people? I have no ability as a human, a physical brain ability, to imagine all the people in Bhutan or Sicily, because I've never been there. That requires my own experience. So he's seeking us to go out of our physical ability, living life in peace. What does that mean? That sounds good. Living life in peace, and it says you. He emphasizes you before he goes, you may say I'm a dreamer. So living life in peace, you. You may say I'm a dreamer. He's actually living life in peace. He juxtaposes that with religion, nation, and things worth defending. But living a life that is so peaceful, where you have nothing to defend, nothing to aspire to, and nothing worth killing for if it comes to that, that's not peace. That's a non-existence. That's not having anything worth living for. You may say I'm a dreamer. So he's tacitly acknowledging that this isn't real. It's a fantasy. But I'm not the only one. Again, it's the drug dealer. Buy it. It's easy for free. I hope someday you will join us. That's a cult. That's kind of what cults say. And the world will be as one. So, which one? Which culture? Because you have to choose one. We have to have a common narrative. That's why nations exist. It gives us a common narrative to relate to. So if I'm in Romania, we have a common narrative, a history, a culture. I may not be Orthodox Christian, but I would be expected to respect that and their traditions, their holidays, as the narrative that the people are unified around. As the same thing would be if I went to Bangladesh. There would be a unified narrative. But if the world's going to be one, all of those other narratives have to go. So whose narrative is going to win out? And that's this blank slate John Locke, the Tabula Rasa, which is a liberal, anti-ethnic, anti-national form of English culture. This is English, but it's a radical extremist form of English culture in which even the English people, my next door neighbors over there, not next door, but a couple hours drive, in which the English people actually lose their identity as well. Because they don't get to identify with their own ethnicity, they don't get to identify with their Anglican faith, they don't even get to say, our specific English dialects have richness in their language. Next, imagine no possessions. That sounds a bit like Marxism. And in every case that's been tried, many have died. I wonder if you can. This is kind of like the snake in the Garden of Eden. There's hidden knowledge here. If you just bite, if you just get into it, you'll get it. We can do it. Nothing easy is worth doing in the long term. No need for greed or hunger. I don't like greed or hunger either. But trying to erase them from our world because it makes you uncomfortable is what has led to the death of more people in history than anything else in the history of mankind. When you have religion going too far into religious fanaticism and communism under Mao, both of them wanted to get rid of greed and hunger. This is a natural state. We're always going to have this in our world. And there's nothing we can do about it because we are not God. That's the central point here. It is self-worship. It is, I know better than anyone else. Just do what I want, and there will be utopia on earth. That's homicidal. A brotherhood of man. By definition, a brotherhood means that there are other families. So he only wants one family, which to me is anti-culture, anti-nation. And he only wants there to be love, which is the definition of there not being love, because love requires hate to exist in our world for us to even understand what it is. Imagine all the people. I don't want to imagine all the people. I can barely cope with knowing everyone at my work, everyone who I've encountered who's formed a friendship with me in my lifetime, social media, responding to you on YouTube, my own family, and people who I gain slowly a friendship with. That takes a lot of energy just to be able to hold them in my imagination and organize my friendships. We cannot imagine all the people because we have limits. There are limits to your freedom. There are limits to what you can do. And you don't get to own the entire world, which brings us to the next line. Sharing all the world, you. What does that mean? He's essentially saying he wants to own the entire world. Because how else could you interpret it? You can walk up to someone in Kyoto, Japan, and say, share your house with me. You have no right to say no, otherwise that would be hatred and racism. That's what Marxism essentially believes. Walk up to someone and demand that they share their glasses. Oh well, now they can't read. You're taking away things people need. Sharing is only of value when it is voluntary and forging genuine human connections and friendships. And in order to do that, it cannot be everyone. It must exclude others for the sake of including genuine understanding, mercy, and love with your fellow man. The whole point of loving someone is that you don't love everyone. That's what makes it meaningful and special and gives you, when you are in a brotherhood with anything, anyone, I hope you have brothers with people rather than things. It is defined by what you do not include and by having no definition of what he excludes, because there is no exclusion. There's no shape, there's no order, which means it cannot function, it cannot exist. It is a delusion. It is the belief that you can be God, that you can create the world in your own image. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Again, he's reiterating that this is not possible, but he's not the only one that believes this. Now, I follow a religion, and that sounds a bit like a religion. The problem with this religion is it's materialistic. It's based around you and what you want, rather than the laws passed down from above. It's leveling out. It's refusing that we don't get to just do or choose whatever we want. There are consequences. I hope someday you will join us and the world will live as one. Again, it's the cult, and which one is it? Now, I hope those of you who are Gen Z and even younger watching this understand that ideology, that belief in that we can just all be one, which we can live in a world in which no one is excluded. There are no differences. There are no nations. That is the fundamental problem with our society today. That we have had this post-war ideology by the boomer generation, the post-war generation, forced upon us. Now, I'm not blaming all boomers. They saw the aftermath of a horrific war in which they were systematically, essentially politically indoctrinated to believe nations are evil, traditions and faiths are evil, without understanding the consequences of what that would do to us and following generations in Gen Z. They had no understanding that mass migration, whilst yes, it enables you to have Ethiopian and Mexican food, it forces people to compete for jobs, and that has consequences. That has social consequences. How can I put this in a way that baby boomers will understand? It was normal for me in high school to go into a coffee shop and listen to music about hookers, drug dealers, and people killing each other, whilst posters on the wall of prostitutes. And I was 15. In what world is that normal? But more importantly, why was that done? Why was that allowed? That degeneration of moral authority and structure and law, why was that allowed to be done to us? In which being a hustler and spanking hoes and doing cocaine and being a pimp was considered cool by our culture. Why was that allowed to ever happen in the first place? Because of this ideology. There's no barriers. We must include everyone and anything, or you're somehow an evil person, a nationalist, a racist, whatever. And that's why it's so evil. Because if you allow children to be raised in those set of environments and beliefs, you rob them of structure, you rob them of morality. We now have the lowest marriage and childbirth rate probably in the history of the human race. And Gen Z, I'm sorry. I'm sorry this has been done to you. You should not have to live in a world in which fewer than half of you will ever marry and have children. But if you want the root of what did this to you, it's Tabula Rasa, and this ideology that we can simply imagine a world where there's no differences or nations or religions, and that everything is material, and that we are the center of the universe. It's quite narcissistic. But I think you get my point.